Today we're going to look at the feature rental equipment. Rental equipment is actually doesn't have to be equipment. It can be any resource that you have a limitation on. You'll find rental equipment at settings, registration, and then equipment. So if I go down here, I can add new items. I can look at items, etc. So for example, let's suppose at my location we had Nerf guns and we have a limitation on how many we have at any given time. And so I say we have 50 Nerf guns. Okay, so if I update that, if I have a package that is using Nerf guns, I can limit it to only 50 Nerf guns being used at a time. All right, so it's just that simple. So for an example of one that we want to look at today, let's look at axe lanes. So with something like Nerf guns, you're giving one gun to each person, so we're going to limit to only 50 Nerf guns, but axe lanes can be shared. Okay, so when we're sharing a resource, there's different ways that we could share it. So at my particular location, we have 8 lanes for people doing axe throwing at my one location. So now let's take a look at how we're going to use that. If we go into the registration packages, you can see I've got a bunch of packages in my location. Now, if alls I did was axe throwing and we wanted a limitation of only 40 people throwing at any given time, I wouldn't actually have to use this resource if that was my only activity. And I was doing it just by the number of people because I could simply go into my general settings, so registration general, and we could set our general settings to say that the total max facility any given time is 40 people if that's all I wanted in my location axe throwing. But if I want a little more control, I can use equipment, or for example, in my situation, the total max players at the facility right now, thanks to COVID, we're at a limit, so we've dropped it down to 75. So that's 75 people, but that's including axe throwing, it's including paintball, it's including Nerf, it's including jelly ball. So all of the activities we do between everybody together, I only want 75 total at my facility. But I also need some limitations on how many people can throw axes at any given time because I only have 8 axe lanes. All right. So let's take a look at some packages and we'll see how we handle this. So here you can see different packages I have for Jelly Ball and for Nerf parties and some paintball packages. But let's concentrate on some axe throwing packages. So we have a 90-minute axe throwing package. Okay. Then I also have a private lane 90-minute axe throwing for 3 to 5 throwers, or from 6 to 8, or from 9 to 12. So we can make as many packages as we want, and if you put different limits on the number of people, they're only going to see the one that's applicable to them. So if I wanted to make another one too, it's very easy since now we've added this copy button. So perhaps I want 13 to 16. I can take a look at this existing one and I can copy it, and it's going to say, well, what are you going to name this one? Well, this is going to be 13 to 16 players. Okay. Uh, 13 to 16 throwers. Whoop, bump. And I can copy that particular package. So now I have one that's called 13 to 16. I go in and edit it and say, okay, what is this one? So it's a 90-minute for 13 to 16. So I set my minimum players to 13 and my maximum players in the group to 16. Okay. Then we come down here and we want to set that same thing here. So this is 3 private hours for a group for 90-minute axe throwing. Okay, so that's fine. But we want to change how many axe lanes they're using. So you can see here, here's where the rental equipment is. We can click the drop down. We can see the Nerf guns and the axes and the squirt guns. So axe lanes are what we're going to limit here. And we're going to limit it by event or by booking. So if you book in this thing and you have 13 to 16 people, my other one that I copied had a weight multiplier of 3. We're going to change this till 4. So what is a weight multiplier? So here you can see we have some notes. This setting is used for blocking resources. If you have 2 party rooms and a booking takes the entire room, you can set it as party rooms for the equipment and set the quantity to two in the equipment thing saying you have two party rooms, and then this package could take one of them. This would allow two groups to be booked at any given time. Or if the room could have up to 10 people, you could set it by person. So I can also set this to by person, by player, and then by player I can put in different amounts. Okay, so let's just leave it by event for now. So what we're saying is if somebody books this package, block out four of my lanes. Four of the eight are going to be used up. All right. So there we go. There's that. And after you're done, whatever other notes you wanted to add, and we've updated the editors down here a little bit. So anyway, when you're done, you just hit update, and now you have that package. You go put it on your calendar. Let's look at another one. Let's look at our 6 to 8. So if I have 6 to 8 people, we have a 90-minute private axe throwing room, and for 68 people, we're going to give them two private lanes. Now, I can put more than that in a lane, but we want it to not be too crowded. So you can set your parameters. So 6 to 8 people are going to take two of my lanes in that booking. Now, let's suppose somebody books in and they're not that many people. They're only one or two people. How do we handle that? Well, you can have another package. So this is going to be my 90-minute axe throwing package where it's not big enough to do a private where we're blocking out an entire lane for them. And you can say, well, if it's one to three people, okay, then we're going to just do it by player. We're going to take them out because let's suppose you have four people each book in individually. You don't want to use up four of your lanes for that. If it's okay to mix them. So what we can do here is we can say by player and we can set a fraction of the rental weight multiplier. So here we've set it as zero point 0.2. Okay. So for example, what that does is then that means only five people, um, if five people book in, they are going to occupy one full lane. All right. So if two people book in, it'll still let three others book in. Or if four booked in, it would still let one book in because this says cap it out where each person is taking 20% of the lane. Or if I wanted only four people max per lane, if they're individually booking, I can set that to 0.25. So now each person is taking a quarter of a lane. So if somebody does this booking and books in two people or three people or four people, so if I allow up to four people to book, when they book this package, that four people would take an entire lane. Well, that's the same as taking my three to five lane and doing it by event. Okay, so there's multiple ways you can kind of tweak this to either by player or by event use your resources that you have. I know that's a little confusing, a lot going on there, but anyway, that's the way the thing works. Now let's take a look at it in actual reality. Let's go in and take a look at some bookings that I've done. So here we're going to take a look at January 11th because I've tossed some bookings on January 11th. And you can see that we have a package here. It's a 90-minute private axe package for 6 to 8 players. Well, that takes up two of our lanes, right? So we have that one set for two. Here we have one that's a 90-minute for 9 to 12 throwers. Okay, that's going to take up 3 lanes. So between these two, we've taken up 5 lanes. We have this set for a quarter of a lane right now, 0.25% for our standard 90-minute axe throwing. That's not a private. So this is taking 3/4 of that last lane. So we're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3/4. Okay, and we have 8. So if we go in and say we want to do a booking right now, let's check some availability. And all this is at noon on that day. Okay, so it's between 11:30 and 12, and so they'd all get in the way. So our 12 o'clock is in jeopardy of not being able to be booked based on how many people we do. So if we go in here and we say, hey, I want to book, and I'm going to bring in 12 people, um, and we'll see some paintball options up here at the top, but let's scroll down until we see some 90-minute axe throwing. So 9 to 12 people, that can give me 3 lanes. But if I click on that day, we'll see that noon isn't available because 5 3/4 are already used up. So I can't book three more lanes at that time. Okay, that would run me over the limit. If, however, instead of 12, I'm only bringing in 6 people, okay, so then it's going to calculate it out, and I go in and I look at 2 lanes. Well, since I'm using 5 3/4, I'm only need 2 more. I can still at noon. That's going to take me to 7 3/4. In fact, then if I book that, one more individual would still be able to book in, and that would max out that resource of my 8 lanes based on my parameters. So hopefully that makes sense, and you can spend some time and tweak things out. Do what I did. Take some day in the future where nobody's booking anyway. Make your packages, set them up the way you think you want them. Then just do a whole bunch of test bookings for that day and make sure that all the numbers play out the way you want them to. It shouldn't take you too long to get a feel for it. And if you have any questions or need any help, feel free to reach out anytime. But you should have a lot more control of particular resources by using our new feature under equipment by being able to set it by person, by player, or by event and weighting them accordingly. All right. So, any questions, again, reach out to us and we'll look forward to talking to you soon.